It's, I know it's exhausting to sit and just listen to talk, and all this food is there. So bear with me. I have a little slideshow. I have a couple of video clips, and I really hope I can work that out with the technology. And I have a couple of pages I wrote down. I think it's around 4 pages. Generally, it doesn't take for me too long to read 4 pages, maybe 5. I think the first 4 is going to be okay. The last one, I'm hoping I can make it through. It's, you know, there's some emotional part of it, so let's start. Okay, so thanks for, again, everyone just showing up here. It's a really, really good crowd. We really didn't know how many people to expect here. You know, I guessed around 150, but I think we're way over that, so it's just great. You heard a lot of nice stories about my wife, Maria, and it's already a long time, you know, we spent already like 40 minutes here, and I'm losing my patience myself. Just sitting around and listening, and some of it is easier, some of it is harder. And generally, this is one of my weaknesses, just listening to people ramble around. So, just hold on, I'm going to ramble a little bit. It's a guided ramble because I wrote it down. I spent 23 years with Maria. Pretty much that's where I knew her. We didn't start dating right away, and I first met her at the end of August in 1992. It was not in Hungary. We both started the same postgraduate program in Amsterdam in environmental management. Some of this talk will sound really serious, but it's not. Some of it will be serious. And so just to translate it, in Europe they call it postgraduate education, what is called here graduate education. And I always wondered why that difference is, and I always thought the European approach made a little more sense, because I just don't remember saying people, I undergraduated with a bachelor's from XYZ. Anyway, I'm sure there is logic behind it. The particular feature of the program was that the Dutch government created about 35 scholarships for students from Eastern Europe, which at the time went through rapid changes. Maria moved to Hungary in 1988, so she was one of the 4 Hungarians coming to study in Amsterdam. Oh boy, was she different than the rest of us. You can picture 35 quiet Eastern European young people sitting and maybe whispering to each other upon arrival, while there was one person who was happily chit-chatting, loudly laughing with organizers. The laugh that I will always remember. And in some very unconventional outfit, with no English accent, or rather with an American accent. What was my first impression? Well, I thought, well, it's a typical American who always thinks that they are at the center of the universe. How wrong I was. As you can see, our love was clearly not love at the first sight, but we soon became very good friends. A bunch of us studied together, and even though we did not live in the same dorm in the first semester in Amsterdam, we partied, we laughed, learned, studied, and carried each other on our bicycles in the typical Dutch way. It became soon very clear to me that Maria has a special fondness for food, all sorts of food, and especially for desserts. With her best friend in Holland, Jasenka, who came from Croatia, they often sat in cafes, not coffees, cafes, this is not the drug store, and ate the Dutch apple pie with whipped cream. I think it's called appelgewach with zwaggelen, you know, trying to pronounce it. It's just the Dutch people here probably know it a lot better than I do. As a consequence, their monthly stipends sometimes did not last till the end. Around Christmas time, when we had to switch dorms, Jasenka and Maria convinced the organizers, who were also friends, that the 3 of us should live in 3 adjacent dorm rooms in Amstelveen, which is part of Amsterdam. That's when we were neighbors. Each of us had a single room with a little kitchenette and bathroom. I sometimes cooked for them, especially in the second part of the months, and had trips together. In fact, at one point, it might have been in December, Maria invited all of us Hungarians, just a small group of friends, to her dad's house, who was working in The Hague at the time. All in all, we started to know each other better, had lots of fun together, and laughed a lot. Both of us were in relationships, but our boy and girlfriends were back in Hungary, and at the time, I think we were ready to get out of those relationships. Well, I was certainly was. As spring came, our love fever came with it, and we madly fell in love with each other. I remember at some point that our Dutch study group student friend, who was in the same group with me, told Maria that I was very useful and contributed to the group. Until that point, and he just considered it sheer distraction. A sheer distraction, which ever since then I could not love anyone else as much as I loved her. She was up for everything. I cannot think of a person I ever met before who was more adventurous. When Maria moved to Hungary, the country was still behind the Iron Curtain. However, the country was a lot more open than any neighboring countries. By late 1988 and early 89, the communist system was going down the process of collapse. With the economic and political crisis at hand, Hungary went through an oddly calm process of democratization. I was still an undergrad, but we discussed politics with our professors and fellow students with surprising openness. I love this waking nation, the electric, optimistic, and perhaps a bit naive atmosphere. She even ventured further east and visited Transylvania several times, which is part of Romania and at that time suffered under one of the cruelest dictators. One time, while traveling there, she started to make photographs, which was another passion of hers. So she started to make photographs of old steam engines that were still in use. In a short time, several security agents showed up, took her to the police station, and started to interrogate her, suspecting an American spy. Because who would take pictures of an old run-down steam engines in run-down stations in towns in Romania, which was a closed country at the time? In the end, they let her go and only took the film out of her camera. Maria loved to travel, but traveling for her was probably not a traditional travel. Almost any time we went together, she carefully planned the trip, so it always included old friends, relatives, if there were any. When I first came to the US with her in June 1995 and stayed here until end of August, it seemed natural that I met the New Jersey friends who she grew up with. And hopefully a lot of them are here actually. However, when we did our 2 trips to the Northeast and New England, we pretty much went from one friend to another. This is how I first met Corky, Sue and Glenn, Nancy and Reddy, Margaret, and a lot of other friends. These people just could not be nicer. That was very surprising. Well, not surprising. And they were very far from what I thought about typical Americans. You know, second time I mentioned that. I loved every second of it. It was so far from stereotypes, and these people were just interesting and fascinating as Maria was. There is a Hungarian saying that you will truly get to know someone via his or her friends. I think this is true for Maria, and you are the witness. Maria was the most amazing networker. She instantly made connections with people and then nurtured those friendships. And she could do this before all the social media tools were available, as we heard today. If there was one person I know for whom Facebook could have been invented for, I think it was my wife. We didn't talk too much about it, but Maria was very smart. She read a lot, she spoke 2 languages completely fluently without an accent, and I only know one other American like her who speaks Hungarian without any accent. And she also spoke 2 other languages relatively well. She was very worldly, with knowledge of so many different things. However, she was also very modest. Her humility would never allow her to boast about anything. I found out quite a few of her achievements a lot later by accident or from friends. I loved her spark, her intellectual capacity. It made her so much more beautiful. She was a very deep thinker. Some of my favorite pictures actually were taken, not by me, but were just taken when she's caught in these deep thoughts. Maria loved outdoors, loved the physicality of everything. She used to say that she loved when she became sweaty after intense exercise and then smelled her own sweat. Nice, huh? Well, this is what I put up with 21 years. However, she always needed sweat buddies, so she was not alone. She did not enjoy sport if it was not together with some other people, whether it was competitive rowing during college years, kayaking, rafting with friends, having downhill ski trips with her best friends in the Alps, or cross-country skiing around Ithaca. Sharing these experiences with family and friends made her days. I cannot vision Maria as a solitary runner hitting the asphalt, but I can see her running up the steps at Brown in the stadium with her fellow rowers and good friends. But I was not there, but I just can envision it. She loved being on water. Her true passion for rowing since starting college never wavered. After college, she continued recreational rowing in Hungary, and her best Hungarian friends were all other rowers. Even in Holland, where we spent a year, she rowed with some Dutch club. I don't know where she rowed, but I know she did. Once we returned to the US, she became very active with the Brown Women Rowing Alumni. We even planned trips around rowing. 2 years ago, the U23 national team, that's under 23 years old, just translated. So anyway, the national team had their camp in Ithaca before heading to Linz, Austria to the World Championship. Well, guess who hosted 3 rowers in their house while these young men stayed in Ithaca, 2 from Brown and 1 from Harvard. And my daughter told me that she had a crush on one of them. It's very platonic. So. Guess who planned a bicycle trip around Linz? So we stayed in downtown and biked every day to the rowing events along the Danube about 10 miles away. So this is in Austria, not in Ithaca. Ithaca is easy, right? I'm already here. By the way, we had an absolutely lovely time, a memory to cherish. The last few years, she also really enjoyed kayaking. One of the highlights in 2014 was the first descent trip to North Carolina, where they had a fabulous time with a group of women, each being a cancer survivor, whitewater kayaking. We also had a wonderful one-day family kayak trip with our 2 teenagers. Balint was in Hungary at that time still, on the Tionioka River, and I don't know how to pronounce this river, but it's right here at Whitney Point. So we started in Messengerville and ended up at Whitney Point last August. You know, this is the one part of the crew. It was just the 4 of us. So one of the things she asked me that after her death, some of her hair should be sprinkled into Seekong in Providence, some into the Danube in Budapest, some into the North Sea in Holland. So I have, you know, my daughter didn't know about this, so she asked me, do we have her hair? I said, yes, we do. So I'll still have to do it. So maybe when I go to the Brown University rowing event, maybe we can do this. The last few weeks, as I was trying to go through boxes of papers and odds and ends, I found a diary that she started in 2002. Late 2002 and 2003 were very difficult years for us, probably the hardest in our marriage. So she tried to dig deeper into herself and find her balance again. She came up with a list that included what characteristics described her best. And out of those, which possibly were traits from her dad or mom. One that really caught my attention was, quote, how neatly I can fold my clothes. Just kidding, no, this wasn't there. Well, if you know my wife and me, you would know it's not true. This is not written here, but when first we started to date, I opened her closet. I said, oh, is this all your laundry? Well, I served 1 year in the military, and I have a half German mother, so that's some of the description. In fact, what was written in the diary, it said, curious like my dad. She was very, almost relentlessly curious about other people, about things that she was not familiar with. I tried to compile a list of things that she tried out since I know her. I do not think I have a complete list, but here are some that I could recall, at least for the last 13 years of living in Ithaca. So she tried out beekeeping class at Cornell, chicken keeping in Cayuga Heights, thanks to Jessica, we still have them. For a while they served as food for skunks and whatever other creatures. Volunteer firefighting at Cayuga Heights, which she had to stop because she broke her arm playing soccer. Theater, she did the parent stories some of you may have attended in 2013. Writing course at Tompkins County Community College. Ski patrol training at Quick Peak, whitewater kayaking in North Carolina. She did rafting before I knew that, but I don't think so she did whitewater kayaking before. cross-country skiing at night, which became a big hit in our home. Deer hunting. She said, I want to go, living upstate. I want to go how it is. My understanding, they didn't shoot a deer, but they spent a fabulous time just out talking and whatever they're doing, in the cold weather. Okay, so here's this one. Nude modeling for Ithaca College art major students in 2000. She did that. Now, the only regret I haven't seen any drawings. I really would have loved it. She was very experimental in food, some of it driven by necessity, but some of it not. So she tries out the Gerson-juicing diet, she started the macro diet, and she tried the Dutch raw herring, and that's really a feat. So if there are any Dutch friends here, trust me, that's something. Life in Maria, as you can imagine, has never been boring. I always felt that she provided a counterbalance to my reserved, more inward turning personality. She did open a new world for me. She loved small things versus big things. She loved Budapest versus New York City in terms of big cities. She loved Holland and Hungary more than the US. And she loved small communities and houses versus large, rich suburban areas. She never wanted a traditional career-driven life where people work long hours to chase money and then go home day in and day out. She wanted a more relaxed, more friendly, in some ways a more simple life, and travel from that simple base to see the world, show it to her family, kids and friends. As recently as April 2015, she participated in a project that was initiated by the Ithaca Area United Jewish Community. The project is the Holocaust Education Project, and the committee is working with students from the Park Scholar Community Outreach Program at Ithaca College. The intent of the video project is to create a series of videos about members of the Ithaca community and their relationship to the Holocaust. Maria became involved because her mom received an award to honor her grandparents in 2011 who saved Jewish people during the Second World War in Budapest. During the video interview, Maria, my wife Maria, talked about her childhood experiences in Hungary. And so I have a short clip, if I can work that.
Mom, how was it visiting your grandparents in Hungary during the summers?
I have very fond memories of visiting my grandparents. They were so both my father's mother, his father had died during the war, and both my mom's parents were very doting grandparents, sort of made from that Eastern European mold of, they would cook us delicious foods, and my grandfather, especially, he sort of was he just sort of had a twinkle in his eye, and he was sort of he was just very fun to be around. I just remember, and he loved animals, so he always would take in all the stray cats and all kinds of different animals. But the other thing I remember especially, and unfortunately they passed away when I was 10, so my memories are not from the first 10 years, but I just remember, we lived in New Jersey. We had a very nice suburban house, but it was very sterile grass yard, and their house with all the animals, they had chickens, they had rabbits, they had all these fruit trees, they grew all this delicious, they were able to basically grow everything that they were eating. It was sort of like a Garden of Eden for me. It was very magical as a kid. And so I just have really very, very fond memories of going there. And my father's mother and my father's sister had a house, but then they were getting older and they swapped it for an apartment. And so I just remember when I had to go stay with them, it was not nearly as nice as staying out in the garden with all the wonderful things to eat.
No speech about Maria should go without her unconditional love of her kids. Okay, that was done. Although she claimed, including on Facebook recently, that when she was 20 she thought she would never have kids and husband, she became a passionate and dedicated mother. She, of course, was often thinking about it if she's doing the right things. But her motherly instincts, her values, and empathy rarely betrayed her. Just to give you an idea of motherly instincts, when Zsófi developed weird symptoms in 2008, it was Maria who relentlessly challenged doctors, talked to friends, researched the internet because she just knew that something was very unusual. My daughter developed Kawasaki syndrome, which is a very rare but treatable disease. If it develops, it is mostly observed in 2-3-year-old boys with Asian origin. So after hectic years, when we moved several times between continents with Balázs and Zsófi, Maria found her balance and she developed a calm aura of parenting by the time Balint came. What a joyful addition to our family he was and he still is. Maria was very involved in our children's education, but again, unlike the more maybe fashionable, maybe not, or helicopter parenting, and pushing the children into more and more academics early on, she wanted a more balanced, happy, wholesome education. She truly believed in Waldorf education. So I have a little insert here, just another short video clip.
My name is Maria Rabb. I work in the office here at home, just part-time with fundraising and outreach efforts, and I have a son who is in the first grade with Miss Claire. I also have 2 older children. One is a freshman in college. He's taking his exams right now at Cornell in engineering. And I have a daughter who's a junior at high school. And I actually became acquainted with Waldorf education when my oldest was about a year and a half old and moved to Jacksonville, Florida. And partly I was looking for community because we moved there from Hungary and I was doing a postdoc and didn't know anybody. And I quickly found it to just be a very warm, but quirky and fascinating community. I wanted to mention that my educational background, well, it was very academic. My parents are immigrants. They always pushed education. I did my undergraduate degree at Brown University. I studied geology, and I have a master's from the University of Amsterdam, but I felt like my education was very much focused around my head, and I was very much in my head and learning from books. And there's something about the Waldorf curriculum that I feel that speaks to sort of the whole person in a way that other forms of education may not. And one of the, I think, most impressive things is that, for example, my son, who's in first grade, is taking handwork with Miss Marshall, and I just wanted to show you. I mean, he brought this home and gave it to me for my birthday. And I just feel like the fact that a first grader can work on something like this, which it's not, you know, something that you can do in 5 minutes or even a day. This is like basically a weeks-long, months-long project for him. It's just amazing, and it teaches them something about what they're capable of with persistence and patience. And he recently started knitting at home. He actually found his sister's old yarn and knitting needles, and it was adorable listening to him explain the little story of how you passed on. And there's a whole little story about it's a bird and wings, and so he kept repeating it, and he didn't succeed at first, but he kept trying over and over, and finally he succeeded, and he said, Mom, I'll teach you how to do this. And I think the fact that a first grader could teach their mother something gave him such a sense of, I don't know, sort of a sense of purpose. And so he's been knitting this, and the other day his little friend Sophie wanted to see what he was doing, and she wanted to learn how to do it, so she, he was trying to teach her. But she sort of started to mess it up, and he said, okay, you know what, I think I'm not going to let you knit on my knitting, but I will, if you come to my house, I'll give you your but so, I just thought that that was a really neat little glimpse or vignette about what this education is.
I'm not here to promote Waldorf, just to clarify. It's not a space for commercials. Maria was not perfect, as am I not perfect either, as you can see. Her pursuit of curiosity did not always allow her to complete things that she started. I just recently, like 5 minutes ago, handed over a book, no, 20 minutes ago, to Sue, that she started to prepare for her wedding gift, which was 2003. This was a recipe book she intended to collect from all the participants of the wedding, and I just found it in one of our boxes or shelves. Anyway, she got it. Her love of all things, and especially all sorts of papers, prevented her sometimes to separate the important from the not so important. This is my comment. Like, she wouldn't say that. This is just purely my take. Sometimes she also started second-guessing her decisions, stressing her and her family about things that could not be changed. But overall, for me, this made her a real human, a more rounded, more interesting personality. In our life, probably the most trying times came with her disease in early 2009. I can recall quite well that pretty much any time we went to see a new doctor, the diagnosis became worse and worse and the outlook bleaker. She bravely faced these trials and pushed through them with determination. She really wanted to be there for her children and provide them a normal life as much as possible. I cannot believe how hard this must have been on her. And yet, we went along, giving us a false sense of security and normalcy. Maria could also be very goofy, like a child. There is some goofiness in all of us, and hopefully we do not let it die as we get older. Perhaps 2 years ago, she dressed up as a doctor when she went for an appointment at Dana-Farber. Our friends, when they were told which room to go to see her, turned back because they thought, oh, there's another doctor in that room. At the cafeteria, she was offered an employee discount. I cannot see too many people in such serious condition who would think and then set up a joke like this. That was her. Recently, one of her most favorite selfies was the picture that she called herself Goofy Ski Face. This was with Mike Ludgate, but she cut out Mike on this picture. Maria also loved hats. If you know her, you probably know that this is true. If I tried to count how many different hats she wore over the last 23 years since I know her, I would run out of fingers, probably even toes, pretty quickly. But here are a few pictures to show you, at least just recently I found. So when Lisa was asking me like a couple days ago what to wear, I said, I don't mind, but you have a hat? So this is my last page, just hold on. I'm almost there. This is going to be probably the hardest for me, but I'll try to read it through. So last but not least is the 5th page. How was Maria as a spouse and a lover? We had some very exciting, engaging, and adventurous years. We always respected each other, trusted each other, and loved each other. Our marriage was not perfect. We had some difficult periods over our almost 21 years. But the trust, and more importantly, the love we had for each other, helped through these difficult periods, and the friends. I always felt that whatever bad things can happen to me, she would always be there, behind me. She was my bouncing board. She was my best friend. The last 12 years, I often traveled, which Maria did not like, and she was very open about it, and expressed it many times, sometimes with a loud voice, that she wants me to be around more. Traveling and being away from family is really not easy for anyone. It was not easy for me, it was not easy for the family. But the sheer fact that she was there, and she will be there when I'm back, and can hug her, gave me the balance. People often told me at work, even in very stressful situations, that I could remain on an even keel. In the story on this even keel, the Jofi corrected me that I'm not saying it right. So she said, you can't say even keeled, you have to say on an even keel. And then Lisa Marshall told me, no, that's not right. You can say both ways. Okay. So it's settled. Anyway, I always felt like I felt even killed at work because I felt like I'm standing on an extra leg. There's a saying, maybe it's in Hungary, maybe in some other, I don't even know, what other countries, that when you lose your spouse, you lose half of you. I cannot believe how true this is. Everything seems to be a lot more difficult these days since May 8. The world seems a little bit upside down and it seems empty. Sometimes I'm just wandering in our house. Nothing seems to matter that much. Sometimes when no one is around, I'm just shaking and crying. During the last few weeks of Maria's life, she was not able to do much, but rather needed our full attention. I remember how exhausted I was after many restless nights, and yet she was there. I was not thinking about it, but she was there. Just safe and magical being who I fell in love with 22 years ago. She was there. It didn't matter. She's not able to do what? She's not very vibrant. She cannot fill the room. That was the first time, actually, I remember that she was telling me these people can come or these people cannot come now, because she always had a very open door, but she just couldn't take it anymore. And she was filling me in a way that I cannot describe. When we were younger, she said, I would like to grow old together and be a grandma with gray hair who spends a lot of time with the grandchildren. She told me there is probably nothing more beautiful than that. It struck me at the time, I was in my late 20s, with a wife and a small kid, career ahead of me, and I really could not think about what will be when and if I'm going to be an old person. In fact, I could not even see 5 years ahead. Random bad luck in our world prevented her dream to come true. I will never forget one of the last nights at the end of April of 2015, just very recently, when she was still able to sleep in our bed rather than the hospital bed, and we were lying next to each other. She had a very hard day behind her, and we had quite a few hard days, and was in a very spunky mood. And I have some friends witnessing, some days were harder than some others, let's put it that way. She recalled a few hard moments in our life when she felt I was not fully there for her when she needed it. And so I said sorry, I couldn't do anything else, I said just in the past. And I told her that I could not have been any happier with anyone in my life. And all that she gave me, and how much I adored her, and she was perfect for me. The first word she picked out of that was, I'm not perfect. And I said, I didn't say that you're perfect. I just said you were the perfect wife for me. Oops. She thought for a moment, and then we just hugged, and just cried a little bit, probably. She always scolded me for not crying. Well, here you go. I think that was our last real hug, because a few days later, when she was already downstairs, we took a hospice care bed in my oldest son's room, Balaj's room, and she was not able to hug anymore. I overheard that she relayed the story to Jofi and told her how she thought. We complimented each other in our life, and that I told her, Maria, my wife, that she was the perfect wife for me. She seemed so happy and at ease at that moment. Maria loved to live. She loved to laugh, and she loved to love. And she was and is the love of my life. Okay, there are 2 short video clips I just want to share, and they're funny actually, that's why I want to share, because I don't want to cry and just leave you. And I want to remember the goofy Maria, which I think is so much fun. So hopefully it works. So they are not 2 old videos. The first one was done in 2013, August, and both of the clips were done by my daughter. So actually, I have not seen these until very recently. So hopefully.
Okay, Mom, start singing good. Wait, now do your crazy thing that you were doing before. Crazy thing. Even though you're giggling, Mom. And you look like you have bug eyes. Why do you have to change now? That's not as good. Stick your tongue out. You don't want to look crazy in front of them?
There's no setup, right?
Alright, do it now.
What?
What you were doing before.
Let